many people with busy schedules to join, so we're going to do our best. Peter, if you could just go to the next slide for me. I know you got a lot going on at the moment. Here's our agenda, and I will talk to the kind of use of technology first, but here's a quick look at the agenda. I know that Susan, our chair, touched on maybe a couple of these, but this is how we plan on the night going. My role here as comms chair is to help you all hopefully understand why we chose Zoom and why we think it's just such an important way to include more people throughout the village in the process. And we're going to introduce you to our parliamentarian, Doris Williams, in a second. But Peter, if you can just go to the next slide. As I have done some of my homework, or I think I've done a lot of homework on Robert's rules, I informally just wanted to call out a couple of kind of the precedents that we're trying to set on Zoom. Everyone will be muted as you join. I hope you're all grateful for this. This avoids a lot of noise and issues that can happen on a large meeting like this. Again, we have about 504 people on at the moment. So everyone will be muted. We've also taken the ability to, you can't unmute yourself unless you're called on. So we're going to ask you to raise your hands, and then you'll see at certain times in the night where we'll have the opportunity to call on those hands. If you have struggled to figure out how to raise your hand, it's on the bottom of Zoom. If you look at your reactions, there is a way you can raise your hand. It looks like many of you are already figuring it out. I actually see 5 people with their hands raised as is, and we will get to you at some point. But I do see, and I now see, I see 5 again. At times, we're going to clear all of those hands. That's not a personal attack at anyone. It's just a matter of business and making sure that we continue to move along. But of course, we're going to include as many people as possible. We highly recommend you turning your camera on. We've done a lot of work, and thanks to our volunteer team on, encouraging civility and transparency. Particularly if you're going to comment, we really need your camera on. I use the word need, hesitantly, but it really is for the best of the meeting. Who knows, maybe someday we're able to do this all in person and get this kind of participation in person, but it's really important that we're able to see each other face to face as much as possible. Another thing, it's also very important to have your first and last name within your profile on Zoom. It looks like most everyone has figured this out. We did have a person with a 312 number, which we couldn't identify in the waiting room. So you do have to have your name. If you're struggling to figure out how to do that, again, it looks like most people have done this. You go over to the participants list, you right click on the arrow and you'll see more, and you'll be able to rename yourself. So hopefully you're able to figure that out. Chat has been disabled to all. Again, we collected a lot of feedback around this meeting, and one of the points we heard is that the chat can be a distraction to the discussions happening. If you do, use the chat, it will come directly to the host. The hosts are Susan, myself, and Peter Eck, who you'll see from time to time, see and hear from time to time. And lastly, and I'll wrap up here, if you are having problems with the Zoom app, the Zoom web experience is maybe a little bit easier. So zoom.us will take you to the web app where you don't need kind of specific software on your computer. So that's an option. And then last, as we've had this, request from a few, and it's part of our bylaws, Zoom voting is, of course, anonymous. We do have some rules that you're particularly going to hear from our parliamentarian in a second, but Zoom voting is totally anonymous, and it's protected in that way. We've gone through great lengths to register everyone here tonight, and look forward to a great evening together. So with that, Susan, I throw it back to you, and then I believe Doris has some more formal rules to share.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, we will have the rules of this council meeting read by our parliamentarian, Doris Williams, PRP.
Can I unmute or what?
They can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I would like to read to you the rules for tonight's council meeting. Number 1, the chair presides over the annual meeting and shall rule on all questions of procedure. 2, the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall be followed in the conducting of the business when the bylaws are silent. 3, once adopted by the caucus, a 2/3 vote is necessary to amend or suspend these rules.
Doris, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is just Ryan. Peter, if we could just go to the next slide, as Doris reads her rules, it'll be helpful, I think, for people to digest them.
Okay. Number 4, each member is responsible for his/her electronic connection. 5, usage of desktop or laptop computers is strongly recommended to fully utilize the interactive platform's features. 6, if a member's connection is causing undue interference during the meeting, the chair may direct the disconnection or muting of the member's line. The technology host shall attempt to aid the impacted members outside of the main meeting setting. 7, upon the meeting being called to order, all caucus members shall be muted.
Peter, can we have you please forward this to the next slide? Thank you.
Number 8, video pictures of yourself should always remain on during the meeting. 9, a member must gain recognition from the chair by raising their virtual hand before addressing the body. 10, first and last name should be listed underneath your picture. 11, the chair will rotate discussion between members in favor of the pending motion and those against. 12, a member may speak to his or her position one time for a maximum of 1 minute. Once time has expired, the member will be muted and the next member will be called upon. Total time for debate is 20 minutes. 14, voting shall be conducted anonymously in the manner prescribed by the chair.
Peter, please forward to the next slide.
15, if a contested election arises because of a nomination pursuant to Rule 91 and the number of candidates exceeds the number of available positions on the slate by 1, then the voters will cast a ballot with a maximum number of names equal to positions on the slate. Ballots with the number of names less than the positions to be filled will be counted, but no ballot listing the same name more than once will be counted. The candidate receiving the smallest number of votes in such an election will be rejected, and the remaining candidates will form the caucus slate. If alternates are available and any of the remaining candidates has not received a number of votes equal to or greater than a majority of voting, then available alternates will be presented and voted on as candidates.
Please forward the slide.
16, during debate session on the candidates to be voted on, members may make a statement or ask a question of the candidates. Each candidate will then have 1 minute to respond to each question posed. 17, the technology host may provide voting instructions to the members. And 18, may seek general consent for non-controversial matters. Any member may object. Voting will then proceed as directed by the chair under normal procedures.
By raise of a digital hand, do I have a motion to adopt the rules for tonight? By raise of a digital hand, do I have a second? It is moved in second to adopt the rules for tonight. Is there any discussion? If so, please indicate with a hand raise.
You know what, Susan, I'm going to go ahead and we can try to lower hands here. Just give it a minute to clear that out, and then we can try that.
Do they? How do they?
For any folks who still have your hands raised, would you please lower them? Okay, I think that clears it.
It is moved into second to adopt the rules for tonight. Is there any discussion? If so, please indicate with a hand raise.
Susan, I saw Sharon King's hand go up first. If we want to unmute her.
Please do.
Sharon, do you see the request to unmute? Are you able to hit that?
She's muted and we can't hear her if she is speaking.
Yeah, I'm going to move on to Colleen Root. I'll ask you to unmute, Colleen.
Good evening. First of all, thank you so much for everything Caucus has done. This is a large amount of work. Ryan, I sent you an email earlier today inquiring what would be the provisional voting procedure to the extent we have residents who have technological issues during this meeting or somehow are bumped. What is the provision for them to have an opportunity to cast their votes?
Susan or Doris, I don't know if you want me to take that one or.
One of the things I'll mention is people can feel free to chat at any time. It will go to the co-hosts. So if you do have a question on the logistics of how to raise your hand or just navigate the meeting, feel free to reach out to us via chat. If anybody gets bumped, they can rejoin the meeting. We'll see them pop up in the waiting room. We'll continue to monitor the waiting room and continue to re-authenticate. So if it's just a matter of you just get disconnected, come right back in. We'll see you in the waiting room. We'll let you right back into the meeting. You can try another device, but we do need to control who's in the meeting.
Yeah, and Colleen, I'm happy to kind of hear specific examples if there are people that, have had technical issues. As we've said in the rules, the technology pros, host has provided instructions. We do feel like we've met the minimum requirements around communication. We've left a kind of an open channel, particularly helping people onboard through hello@winnetkacaucus.org email. So we feel like we've done our due diligence. Of course, there's going to be trade-offs with any technology decision, but we think the goal of including more citizens, particularly having 536 on the line tonight, has shown a healthy amount of engagement and one that we'd like to pursue tonight.
May I ask one question?
Of course.
And that is, in the event someone is unable to vote and has technical problems, can they then reach out to caucus and submit their votes, and will they be considered? Do that in writing via email or by formal letter?
We're definitely unable to accept votes from anyone who hasn't registered for the meeting. If there are examples where someone has registered for the meeting and those lists are locked and they have not been able to vote because of a technological reason, they are more than welcome to email hello@winnetkacaucus.org.
Thank you.
So-
Disenfranchised. Just want to make sure no one is disenfranchised here. Thank
No
you very
doubt.
much.
And just to add on to that point, the voting is entirely anonymous. We will have the attendee log to be able to see if the person was in fact in the meeting or not. So we could validate that they're a resident and then also see that they were not in the meeting.
So I wanted to share the input of the parliamentarian, which is that voting outside of the meeting will not be accepted. All
I
of the
see.
earlier directions around connecting to the Hello website and other technology support is certainly available, and we'll be working diligently on that. But voting outside of the meeting is not permitted.
I see Deanna Ballman's name up. Deanna, I'm gonna, you just made a face as if you don't want to be, so I can take your hand down. I'll do that now. If that's wrong, let me know. I don't see any other hands raised around this call, Susan.
Thank you. If the question is on,
Actually, as I say that, I see Bonnie Weiss. Bonnie Weiss, I'll ask you to unmute. Bonnie, are you able to unmute? I'm asking you to.
Unmuted. The menu that comes up on my husband's computer does not have a raise hand icon.
There should be an option called More that has 3 dots on it. It may be under there, or it'd be in a section called Reactions. If you're
Yeah,
not,
I have it under reactions. He does not.
in that case, it may be an older version of Zoom, in which case we would recommend joining via a web browser.
Okay, all right, I'll tell him that. Thank you.
Thank you.
the question is on the adoption of the council rules. All in favor, please indicate your support by raise of your hand. Ryan and Peter, do we have a majority?
I'm seeing still tallied.
Still
over.
counting.
So I am seeing now a majority, 278 hands raised.
No, we still gotta get the negative votes, all those against.
So please have everyone put their hands down.
All those opposed.
Ryan, will you let me know when we're ready for the next vote?
Yep, it looks like hands down. Yeah, just wanted to make sure Marianne Burke, Randy, and Amy didn't have a question there, but yes, all hands are down.
All those opposed,
Raise your hand.
please raise your hand.
I'm seeing 6 hand raised, and 4 red X's. So we'll count the hands. That's 5 hands.
There were 279 in favor.
There were 279 in favor.
5 against.
There were 5 against.
The motion is, the rules are adopted.
The rules are adopted.
Next order of business.
The
Susan, your connection is just breaking up a
On the
little bit. I don't know
proposed
whether you want to repeat what you're saying or have Doris maybe get off the computer if so both aren't pulling at the Wi-Fi, but
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. The next order of business is to vote on the amendment, the proposed amendment to plank 1 of the Winnetka Parks platform. So we're going to put up on here both the current platform and the proposed amended language. We're going to give everyone a moment to read these themselves. And then we will have Teresa Claybrook speak for 2 minutes in favor of the current platform. And we will have Jude Offerly spend 2 minutes speaking in favor of the proposed amendment. But we will give you a moment to read both of those first.
Speakers come on.
Okay, we are going to move toward having Teresa Claybrook speak in support of the current language for plank 1 of the Winnetka Parks platform.
Teresa, we just asked you to unmute, so you should be able to speak.
Got it. It wasn't working originally.
Great.
My name is Teresa Claybrook, and I'm here to comment on behalf of the Winnetka Parks Caucus Committee in support of the plank as originally drafted. 83% of the respondents to the caucus survey were in support of repairing and preserving the beaches, bluffs, and tablelands, and investing to address safety and security issues. The plan, already approved by the Winnetka Park District, does just that, focuses the infrastructure on preserving what is in place today and addressing the infrastructure to improve on the access and safety of Elder and Centennial beaches. Specifically, this plan, as approved by the Park District last spring, addresses bluff protection, beach preservation, ADA access, emergency responder access, a dog beach solution, and the stormwater discharge. The plank, as currently written, supports moving forward with this plan as approved. Any subsequent improvements or amenities beyond this planned infrastructure would only be considered with additional community input. In the caucus survey, more than 110 people provided specific comments on amenities they would appreciate seeing in our beaches. This plank leaves the opportunity for the Park District to consider these amenities if the community supports the idea. The Winnetka Caucus Committee took into consideration the input of nearly 2,000 people who responded to the community survey. And with this input, the Caucus Committee developed this plank. The proposed amended language was developed and supported by a group of 108 individuals. And this amended plank could severely impact the already approved plan, causing further delay in the reopening of Elder Lane Beach. Furthermore, the amended plank would prevent the Winnetka Park District from considering any additional amenities that might be desired by our community. For those reasons, we support the plank as originally proposed. Let's go get Elder Lane Beach open.
Thank you, Teresa. We will now have Jude Offerly present in favor of the platform as amended.
I'm Jude Offerly, and I live at 112 Fuller Lane, and I am a member of the Parks Committee. The amended plank was the first option under question 5 of the survey that asked, going forward, what would you like to see Winnetka Park District do? And it received the plurality of the survey votes, 44%. The 83% of meaningful support referenced in the caucus plank assumes that one could add the first and the second responses of the survey together when the two answers are totally different. This is disingenuous at best. Indeed, 15% of the respondents chose wanting more information, including a possible referendum. It would make more sense to add this component to the first response, which would result in a 59% majority. Further, several members of the Parks Committee reviewed the comments to the first question, which were not available when we met on the drafts. Nearly 1 in 5 of the respondents to the survey took the time to write comments. A majority of those comments, 64.8%, specifically called for limiting the Elder Lane Centennial Project to reopening Elder Lane Beach, limiting development, and going to the electorate for referendum on any additional funds. Your neighbors who walked door to door to secure 5 times the required number of signatures think it's important for the Park District to slow the $14 million project and any additional phases until the Park District provides full budgeting transparencies and secures community approval. We believe the lakefront facilities, including Elder Lane Beach, should be safe, simple, and open.
Thank you. We will now move to debate. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak in favor of the current platform.
I saw Julia Peterson's hand first. Julia, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead, Julia.
Might be an audio issue there. I think we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, Peter, if you could see the next, hold on one
Katie,
second.
I saw your hand up. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Katie Stevens.
So I'm not in favor, so when do I speak?
You can speak right now.
Okay, I vote that we vote yes for Jude's amendment to the Park District plank. We also want one united Elder Beach Centennial Beach. The current Park District plan breaks Elder and Centennial into 3 segments. The rock piles will destroy the views we now have from Waukegan to Gilson Park. I wish I could show you a photo. The rock piles alone will consume approximately 150 feet of beach and water. The current groins have preserved our beaches and bluffs for nearly 100 years as the lake rises and falls. Minimal improvements need to be made. Elder and Centennial can be repaired and opened for a cost of less than $3 to $4 million. Kenilworth is completely renovating their beaches for less than $3 million. It's about the same size. We all want Elder open, but if the Winnetka Park District thinks it should cost more than $14 million, anything over $3 million should be approved by a referendum. The Park District's $14 million plan for 3 huge breakwaters does nothing to unite the beaches, it divides them. The huge
Katie,
wall in the middle of our beach.
You're at 1 minute. So
I'm not
you're
at 1 minute yet. Our current groins and I am urging you to vote for Jude's amendment, not for for Teresa Claybrook's plan.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Terry Dason next, and then just to let the on deck person know, Randy Whitchurch, you will be after Terry. Oh, looks like Terry lowered her hand. Terry, please raise your hand again if you would like to say something. The Elizabeth, well, Randy, I'll go to you right now. And then Elizabeth Payette, you'll be next.
All right. My name is Randy Whitchurch. I live at 143 Fuller Lane. Seems to me that this choice comes down to two things. If you're in favor of doing the work to repair and preserve the beaches as the Elder and Centennial, you vote for the original language. That will cost us $13 million. And by the way, I agree with the original comments by Jude that said that the amendment is currently stated 82% support for the Elder Centennial project is factually incorrect. There's only 43.8% that support only doing the repair and preserve the beaches. If you're in favor of doing the work to open Elder and exploring the need for additional work, vote for the amended plank. That will cost us $3 to $4 million, a $10 million difference. That's significant, and it ought to go to referendum.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, Elizabeth.
I just want to make sure we're rotating pro and against. So just to state your position clearly, Randy, you were.
My position is in support of Jude's amendment.
Okay, so we've had two in support of amendment. Do we have any against that would like to speak up?
I see Warren James raising his hand, so Warren, will go to you. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead, Warren.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Very good. As you all know, if you're participating in this meeting, the lakefront improvements have been the subject of great discussion, debate, consideration by the Winnetka Park District for several years. On May 25th, 2023, the Winnetka Park District passed resolution that included improvements to rubble mound breakwaters to create additional recreational area, to protect the shoreline and bluff from long-term effects of erosion due to variable water levels while providing a foundation for future phases of upland improvements, to provide an accessible pathway conforming to ADA standards from the existing Centennial parking lot to the Centennial Boardwalk and viewing platform, and provide for future ADA accessible route to the beach. Provide public access to, from, and across Park District beach property, allowing the public to traverse the lakefront, including steps open over any improvements perpendicular to the shoreline. To relocate the existing gated and locked entrance to the existing dog beach to the new boardwalk level, to allow public pedestrian access to the remainder of Centennial Beach from Centennial Park, and to provide vehicle access from Elder Lane parking lot to the Elder Lane Beach for construction, maintenance, and emergency purposes, and improve pedestrian access for beach patrons, and to relocate, replace, and improve village's Elder Lane storm sewer discharge to the outer edge of the new north breakwall. The Park District subsequently approved another resolution adopting the final schematic plan on October 19th. All of these are as contemplated within the budget, as properly planned and budgeted for many years. Park just has the available funds to complete the improvements while also
you're coming up on a minute. I just want to give you
future
coming up in a minute.
Thank you. I'm in full support of the original plank as proposed.
All right, thank you, Warren. Elizabeth Pyatt, if you can come off video, we'll ask you to unmute and you can go next. And then I'm going to move on to Christina Cotto after that.
I just can't read the proposed platform as amended. If you could move the screen up.
I'm not able to adjust the screen view here. If there's something blocking it on your end, you may have to drag it off that view. Apologies. Christina, we will move on to you, and then Christine Screesham after that.
I believe I'm unmuted.
Yep.
Is that correct? Excellent. I want to thank Warren. Warren's the engineer. We pulled permits last June. We've done 15 months of work. We've done 15 months of listening, 15 months of farmers markets. The project is now basic infrastructure. We have lowered the heights of these breakwaters. We have limited the scope of the project to repairing the gabion baskets at Elder, to protecting the beaches and the bluffs with breakwaters, which are necessary. Without breakwaters, you won't have a beach. And to adding ADA access, which we think is a key part of our mission. This plan was advanced, documented, improved, and discussed at length over the last 15 months. And we're delighted with all of the people who participated in that, everyone who came to our meeting, everyone who spoke, everyone who came to a farmer's market. Consequently, we feel like this work that we have done resulted in these results from the survey. And we believe that these results from the survey are accurate. They match what we've heard in our meetings. They match what we've heard at the farmers markets. They match what we have heard from our constituents.
You're out a minute. I hate to interrupt you, but just wanted to let you know to keep it fair.
That's quite all right. And for that reason, we feel like repair, protect, and add ADA access is the right way to go forward. We have the money, we've done the financing, and there's no need for a referendum. Thank you.
Okay, Christine, you're next. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Christine, if you could state your position and then your viewpoint.
I'm speaking in opposition to the Park District's current platform plank number 1. The Park District's platform plank number 1 presents a false narrative that Centennial isn't open. It is open. And that the dog beach isn't open. It is open. People use it every day. The plank is misleading. Breakwaters do not promote bluff stabilization. And the public should know that these multi-million-dollar breakwaters only have a 20-year life. The public should also know that the village website states that Elder has not only E. coli, but also mercury and PCBs. I propose that the amended platform be adopted, not the Park District's platform.
Thank you very much. We are trying to balance out perspectives on both sides here. Can somebody use chat, please? Let me know if of the folks with your hands raised, or you can give a thumbs up if you'd like to comment, share a view that is different from those expressed so far. Okay. Elizabeth, James, I know you've been waiting for a bit. I'll go to you, and then I'm going to go to Bob Horn after that. Okay, Elizabeth, I've asked you to unmute.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm a young Winnetka resident, and I think it's of the utmost importance that we preserve and improve the beaches. As somebody who plans to stay here for the foreseeable future, I think that our beaches are our greatest asset, and the original plan does the best job of preserving and improving the beaches. Thank you.
Nice and short. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to move on to Bob Horn. Bob, I will ask you to unmute, and if you could come on camera, that would be great as well.
Let's see, did that work? There we go.
You have you. Great. Thanks. Go ahead.
You bet. No, I'm just going to speak in favor of the platform as proposed by the Park District. I've followed this both close and from a distance. I think that the planning is going to create, an outstanding amenity to our community. I think trying to do it nickel and dime is absolutely the wrong approach. I've seen that approach taken by Winnetka in the past, and it's failed. I've seen the other approach taken by Winnetka more recently with the streetscape and other things in the community with great success. And I think that trying to nickel dime something as important as our parks and our beaches is absolutely the wrong approach. Community has the money reserved for this project. They've been very thoughtful in their planning. I have great confidence in the people that have then executed the planning at the Park District Board. I think there's some true professionals that have worked hard on this.
Probably need to
and
wrap
have
up.
listened to the community. And have listened to the community. I think what the community needs to do is invest in the community and not nickel and dime the community.
Okay, we're going to move on to Bob Logue. I'll ask you to unmute, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. 1 second, sorry. It's an echo. I really echo what the previous resident stated. I will add, I'm proud of Winnetka being a beach community. Myself and my family, we go to the beaches almost every day, walking, running. Our kids are down there at Lloyd playing. When we have guests or visitors coming in from out of town, we show off Lloyd. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Walking down, seeing all the families there. So I'm in strong favor of supporting the current platform, especially when you see that 83% of the respondents are in support of this. And I'd love to see all of our beaches be as beautiful as Lloyd is. So I'm in strong support of the current platform. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
And before we turn it back to Susan, I did just want to read the statements out loud, just because I know we have heard feedback from a resident who was unable to read. So I thought that would be inclusive and fair. Current platform, plank number 1, waterfront improvements. The WPD has meaningful support, 83% of respondents from the community in moving forward in its effort to improve and reopen Elder Centennial Beach. As a priority, significant and immediate attention and financial support should be focused on repair and preservation of the beaches, bluff, tableland, as well as work related to safety, security, and restroom facilities. Additional consensus building is necessary to determine what, if any, additional amenities, scale, scope, cost, the community will support beyond the work referenced above, with fewer than 40% of respondents currently in favor of exploring those additional steps. And just to be clear, the proposed platform as amended would read, the WPD should focus on work that must be done to repair, preserve, and maintain beaches, bluffs, tablelands, restrooms, and for safety, including opening Elder Lane Beach. Susan, we are at our 20-minute for debate. I throw it back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. We are now ready to vote on the amendment. We will launch a poll.
1 second, I'm just getting that keyed up here. Okay, everybody should see this on their screen, or if you're on a mobile phone, you can vote that way. We are just over 300 votes. Over 400. If anybody's not seeing the poll, I would recommend moving around your screen. It might be covered by another window. The other thing is, if you have a very outdated version of Zoom, you might want to try the web browser version. That should give you full poll functionality if that's the issue. We have 86% of participants voting so far. We'll leave it open for another short while here.
I also cleared all hands just to kind of get us out of debate, but if there are people, who need to speak, please, you can raise your hand again. That we don't have time for it right now, but I just wanted to make sure that I did manually remove all the hands.
Okay, voting is pretty much leveled off here at 490 out of 5. We've got 88% now, a couple more trickling in. Give it another 30 seconds. Oops, apologies. Okay, I'm going to cap it there. Voting is leveled off at 500 votes. Going to end the poll. And I will share the results. You can see we had 54% vote to retain the original language, 46% voting to adopt the amended language.
It's majority vote. So the amended language. Yeah.
So the proposed amended language did not pass. The current platform will remain in place.
Yes. Next order of business.
The next order of business is the report of Village Candidates Committee, Tom Brown, Committee Chair.
Thank you, Susan. I assume I'm unmuted. If not, let me know. Let me give you a quick overview of the process that has led us to this evening. Some of this you've already heard this evening, but it bears repeating. We meet tonight as the Village Caucus. All voting age residents of the village are entitled to participate in the voting tonight. What preceded this were a couple of steps by the Winnetka Caucus Council, our 42 fellow residents who conduct the day-to-day business of the caucus. 2 steps I want to outline for you. The first step was to convene, the Caucus Council convened a candidate slating committee. The slating committee had 9 members representing a demographically diverse group. I had the privilege of chairing this committee. Its paramount objective was to select in good faith, with an open mind, what the committee viewed to be the best 3 candidates from among those who had applied. They adhered to Rule 80 of the bylaws mandating all interested candidates, whether incumbent or not, shall be given equal consideration by the slating committee, such that the caucus nominees are selected based on merit. The slating committee invested a considerable amount of time reviewing the written applications submitted by the candidates, interviewing each candidate, deliberating on the pros and cons of each candidate, and checking references. Following its deliberations, the slating committee proposed a slate of Rob Apatow, Tina Dahlman, and Dawn Livingston. Kim Handler was named as an alternate in case any of the slated candidates did not proceed to the election for any reason. The second step in the Caucus Council's process was to convene a meeting of the entire Caucus Council, the 42, and to vote on the slating committee's recommendations. That meeting took place October 16th. At that meeting, the slated candidates were approved with solid majorities from the Caucus Council. After the October meeting of the Caucus Council, there is a period of time in which a nomination from the floor may be made under Rule 126E of the bylaws. Jim Rao, from whom you'll be hearing later this evening, nominated Kim Handler as a candidate from the floor. We have then 4 candidates, 3 from the original slate, and 1 nomination from the floor for your consideration this evening. You've had the opportunity to review their biographies, I hope, on the caucus website. We'll now allow each of the candidates a 6-minute presentation. The 6-minute presentation is comprised of 3 components. The candidate will speak for 2 minutes, and then each of 2 supporters for that candidate will speak for 2 minutes. According to Robert's rules, we'll go by alphabetical order, and that means we'll be starting with Rob Apatow. Rob, if I could ask you to start us off.
Rob, you should be able to unmute.
Just got it. Thank you.
Perfect. We
Appreciate
hear
it.
you.
All set. Oh, good evening. A little bit about me. I have lived in Winnetka for over 30 years. I went to the Winnetka Public Schools through Washburn and New Trier, and I've raised my own family in Winnetka, and now have the pleasure of being close at hand as 2 of my 4 grandchildren live in Winnetka a few blocks away, and my other 2 grandchildren live in Wilmette close by. I have a deep history of both civic and business experience, which really let me hit the ground running as a trustee nearly 4 years ago. I have been both a public and private president and CEO for about 15 years, most recently running FTD companies worldwide. And I've also held senior executive leadership positions at Allstate, Reebok, and Anheuser-Busch. I retired in 2017, which finally allowed me enough time to commit to roles such as serving the village. Over 5 years ago, I was asked by the Dean of the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern to run the Kellogg Executive Leadership Institute, as well as be a professor teaching corporate governance issues, crisis management, innovation, and transformation, all of which I apply in my role as a village trustee. I spent a great deal of time getting perspective from residents before weighing on decisions before the council. And without agenda, I've helped spearhead and successfully address several important issues in the village that have gone unresolved for decades. I'm returning to focus on 4 key initiatives that, if done correctly, will benefit all of us, our children and our grandchildren. First, completing One Winnetka. We're on the path to do this. Second, protecting our lakefront open spaces while protecting property rights. Third, ensuring the post office site is turned into a space that all residents can gather and enjoy, eat, have fun, and be proud of. And fourth, really help our great stormwater work to date continue on target and on budget. As a part of my trustee duties, I am also the liaison to the Chamber of Commerce, the lakefront, and the fire department. I've been focused on continuing the vibrancy that has returned to the village, with retail stores filling up, great new restaurants, and the streets and infrastructure getting fixed and beautified, while importantly keeping your tax dollars in check and with as little impact as possible to you. I think that's a way that all residents' taxing bodies should be, all the Winnetka taxing bodies should be working. So we're focused, and I appreciate on the next 2 years, and we really appreciate your vote and consideration. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for holding it for 2 minutes, which will limit each candidate to. We have 2 speakers for each candidate tonight. The first for Rob is going to be Matt Bogus. Matt joins us via video tonight that we will play for the caucus now.
Okay, I'm pulling that up right now.
Hi, I'm Matt Bogus. My family and I moved to Winnetka 3 years ago, and we live at 471 Hawthorne Lane. I'm a managing partner at a global advertising agency, and I'm here to support Rob Apatow. I grew up in the Northwest suburbs, attended Northwestern University on the Evans Scholarship, and was the youngest ever elected mayor of the city of Des Plaines, serving over 60,000 constituents. I held office for over 12 years, and one of those years I served as the president of the Northwest Municipal Conference, of which Winnetka is a proud member. You hear a lot, you see a lot as an elected official in this region for over a decade. And it's with that firsthand context and that regional perspective that my wife and I chose Winnetka for our family, because on a relative basis, the village is professionally run and free from significant self-interest. I'm here today supporting Rob Apatow to keep it that way. I've known Rob for as long as I was elected. I've watched him lead multi-billion-dollar international public companies. I've watched him teach at my alma mater, Go Cats. And I've watched him change some really nasty grandkid diapers. Rob has fought to protect the historical character of our community and the beaches my kids love. Rob has advanced the ball on significant economic development projects like One Winnetka, while supporting those local merchants my wife, friends, and I frequent. Rob has doubled down on critical infrastructure like flood mitigation and the downtown streetscape, which our family loves to see lit up during the holiday season. Rob has the experience in complex operations, finance, marketing, negotiations, and innovation. But what matters more than all of that is that Rob is all in. Not for himself. He's all in for us. Join me in voting for Rob. Let's put him back to work. Thanks for the time, and I look forward to seeing you around town.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for that. Next up, speaking for Rob is Bob Dearborn. If we could unmute Bob.
Hang on a second here. Oh, geez.
It's all good. We can hear you, Bob. We can see
Well,
your
maybe I'll
copy.
stop my video then.
Yep.
There we go.
Is there any way to point the video back at you just so we can get it?
Well, that's what I was hoping to do. I apologize.
It's all good. I know this is a bit of a different format for some.
Hang on. Here we
There
go.
we go. We see you.
Here we go. Good evening. My name is Bob Dearborn, and I'm delighted to speak in support of Rob Apatow, who certainly deserves to be reslated for another term as village trustee. I have served with Rob as a fellow trustee on the village council for the past several years, and can personally attest to the fact that he has been an outstanding trustee and is a positive force on the council. Rob brings to the village a deep level of business and civic experience, having served as a chief executive of Fortune 500 companies, as well as running the corporate governance initiative at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Business. The value of Rob's experience shows day in and day out through his contributions to the council. On all issues, he is thorough, inquisitive, and measured in his approach. Importantly, he has proven to be forward-looking in addressing critical issues, including stormwater, infrastructure, streetscape development, historic preservation, and others. Rob does so while bringing a keen knowledge of village finances. I can assure you that he takes his responsibility as a steward of your monies very seriously. Rob's style in researching issues is to reach out to residents for input, north, south, east, and west, and broadly to young and old. His objective is to arrive at decisions that are right for Winnetka for years to come. In fact, he has children and grandchildren who are Winnetka residents. So his ultimate goal is to have outcomes that make this village a better place for future generations. For all these good reasons, he unquestionably deserves to be reslated and has earned your vote. I would also like to add, the caucus bylaws were recently amended to allow for longer terms of service to promote continuity and experience. As a 6-year member of the village council, I have worked with many outstanding trustees who have exemplified the value of experience that the caucus seeks. To not reslate strong trustees, absent a material and tangible reason, in my opinion, sends a chilling message to those in the community who are considering devoting enormous amounts of time and effort to fulfill these volunteer
Bob, just wanted to give you a 10-second warning.
Okay. I hope everyone will keep this overarching caucus objective in mind when you vote tonight. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for that, Bob. Okay. Next up, we're going to have candidate Tina Dahlman speak. If we could unmute Tina, and the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm honored to be nominated again. And first of all, I should say thank you to all the tireless efforts of the caucus. We do this every year, creating the survey, the platform, and working to create a slate of candidates. I've served as a trustee since 2021. And prior to that, I was the chair of the Plan Commission for over 8 years. I have been a Winnetka resident for 16 years, moving into the Hubbard Woods neighborhood just a few days before my third daughter was born. I'm a practicing lawyer. I originally started working as a litigator and then had the good fortune to evolve my practice into being a land use and real estate development attorney. I've represented private, nonprofits, as well as governmental entities in the development of land. Professionally, I've spent literally thousands of hours in municipal meetings. Why do I choose to spend so much of my professional and free time working on local government issues? Because I'm absolutely passionate about creating vibrant and thriving communities. Communities that young families want to raise their families in. Communities where seasoned residents can continue to live and thrive. Communities where businesses want to locate. I'm committed to continuing Winnetka's strong history of being a well-managed, fiscally responsible village, but at the same time, making important investments for the future. Critical infrastructure improvements, placemaking efforts, and then support of Winnetka's 3 commercial districts. My expertise as a practicing real estate lawyer for over 30 years on the council is an asset to the community. I have no interest in a political career beyond this. I have no agenda, political or social. I have a flexible mindset. I listen to the community and I collaborate with others, trying to find common ground. What is my motivation for doing this? I am just laser focused on continuously improving our village, so that my 3 daughters, the oldest who's only 23, will want to make Winnetka their home someday. Thank you for your support, and thank you for the efforts of the caucus, and to all of you who have taken time out of your busy schedules in support of our local government.
Thank you, Tina. Speaking for Tina tonight, first is going to be Becky Hurley. If we could unmute Becky.
Thank you. My name is Becky Hurley, and I'm very delighted to speak in favor of Christina Dahlman tonight. As you know, she's a sitting village trustee and a candidate for renomination and reelection. Excuse me. First, as a clarification to any of you who may know her under other names, her friends, which is pretty much everyone, calls her Tina. Her official name is Christina, and as the wife of John Roselli and mother to 3 Roselli daughters, she's also sometimes known socially as Tina Roselli. I have known Tina and all her names for over 20 years. Over that time, I've been able to see and appreciate her through several different lenses. First, as an attorney, I was a partner at Gardner, Carton & Douglas, now Figure Drinker, in the real estate land use department. And after I left, Tina came in. Everyone was enraptured. There had clearly been an upgrade. And I was glad to get to know this legal star. In her work, she did a variety of great work, but she also appeared before city councils and village boards and councils all over the Chicago area. This really helped her develop a strong understanding not only of the real estate aspects, of course, but municipal law, good processes, and the importance of public comment and input. Like me, and as I think you just heard her say, she is passionate about creating strong and vibrant communities that are valued by residents and desired by new residents, and has shown that through her active and influential work in leading land use planning and policy making organizations in the Chicago area. That brings me to the second lens through which I know Tina, and that is the Plan Commission. We both moved to the suburbs. We both got involved in civics in our local communities. I moved to Winnetka, got on the school board, and she moved to Wilmette and served on the ZBA.
Becky, I apologize for interrupting you, but just a 10-second warning to keep it fair.
Oh, 10 seconds. All right, sorry. She followed me as Plan Commission Chair, did a great job and was wonderful during the Winnetka Comprehensive Plan, both on the Plan Commission and on the Village Council. The caucus talks about seeking good leaders, seeking people who will volunteer, and they have asked her time and time again, this community has to serve, and she has. She has said yes. I urge all of us to say yes to her, Tina, as well as the caucus slating committee and the caucus council did. I urge you to vote yes for Tina Dahlman. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you again. Also for Tina Dahlman tonight, Matthew Bradley joins us. If we could unmute Matt, and the floor is yours, Matt.
Hi, thank you very much for having me tonight. Obviously a pleasure to follow. After Becky's comments, I was honored to be asked to speak on behalf of Tina's candidacy for reslating. My name is Matt Bradley. I've lived in Winnetka for 9 years. I live in the Hubbard Woods, 1340 Scott, with my 4 children and my wife. I have served on the Village Zoning Board of Appeals for 7 years. I've been its chair for the last 5. As a role there, I'm also on the Plan Commission, and I have had the duty of swapping chairships on our Plan Development Committee with Tina over the span of those years. I can speak to Tina work habits. I can speak to her abilities as a colleague and a professional in those capacities. We worked together through the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. She was an instrumental figure in helping us find the Lakota group, Becky and Scott and others, who put together a marvelous guide path for our village for the next 20 plus years. Having somebody like her inside of the Village Council will only ensure that we can enact the great, big, grand ideas that are codified inside of that document. We worked together side by side on the on the One Winnetka project, which, despite how many people feel about its inevitable conclusion in the first go around, and I'm excited to say we have a new plan ready to go. What yielded from that exercise was something that Tina was instrumental in, which was the development of our Plan Development Commission, which was all designed to bring a greater efficiency and a clearer guide path and roadmap for both builders and citizens for us to take action on some of our most important projects. I know her to be a bona fide professional. Her business and legal acumen is unparalleled. But beyond that, she's accomplished, she's approachable, she has what all of us should want in our civic leaders, which is humility. Humility amongst leaders. She is a servant leader in every regard. She's in our community, talking to our citizens, talking to families. She lives here. She is what I call a serious citizen, and she deserves to be on Village Council. Let's get her back to work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate your time tonight. Next candidate, we are going to move to Kim Handler's presentation. Kim, I can see you there, and hopefully you're unmuted, and the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. When I was elected 2 years ago, I came into this office, I think, very well prepared to serve you as trustee. My husband and I have lived here for 38 years, and we raised our family here. I spent several years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, Plan Development. I chaired the Caucus Council, served on the Executive Committee and other roles, and more. Currently, I'm the only trustee who's a CPA, and I bring valuable experience in not only financial analysis, budgeting, and capital planning, but even facilities operations that I gained as a financial officer at Kraft Foods. This extensive professional and village experience let me hit the ground running, and I guess I have to say I've run with it ever since. For example, last week we held a full day budget meeting deciding how we were going to carefully spend your tax dollars. You all know about visible projects like stormwater and the post office redevelopment that I'm really excited to move ahead with. But we also make spending decisions on some of the less visible, maybe a little less glamorous, but very important activities like capital investment in our electric and water plants, setting our utility rates, and even looking at our cash management practices. It does take a significant amount of time to acquire the institutional knowledge to understand these kind of complex issues. I have it and I bring it. One last point that I think is very important. I represent all Winnetkans. I know if you've watched Village Council meetings, you know that I approach every decision in an independent, open-minded way. I come prepared, I do my research, I listen and discuss often differing points of view with my fellow trustees. And I always welcome the input from residents. I started the farmers market program this summer and spent all but 2 weekends at the farmers market this season chatting with so many of you, and I've really valued your input and time from you. I make all my decisions thinking of both the short-term and long-term implications, because I've been here a long time, in light of the things that I think we've all moved here for and that we value. Our village is a vibrant, welcoming, and safe place to live and shop, having attractive housing stock that retains its value, preservation of our beautiful natural resources, and, of course, I'd say strengthening our strong sense of community. That's really the backbone of our community, not to be.
Kim, I apologize to cut you off. About a 10-second warning.
I don't even need 10 seconds. I want to thank you for the confidence you've placed in me for the last year and a half as I've served, and hope I'll get your vote tonight.
Thank you, Kim. Speaking for Kim tonight, we first have Jim Raw. If we can unmute Jim and give him the floor.
I think we actually have Mark first. So I've just unmuted Mark and I'll spotlight you.
Oh, no, sorry. I think Jim was actually the correct.
Okay, great.
Because he actually nominated from the floor. So I think it is Jim.
Okay, then let me find you, Jim. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm pleased to nominate Kim Handler for village trustee. Kim was elected to the village council in 2021 and currently is serving her first term as trustee. I think Kim deserves particular attention and support in this election since the caucus slating committee decided to list her as an alternate behind 2 fellow trustees and a new candidate. My wife Judy and I have attended several trustee meetings over the last year, and we recognize how Kim is integral to the process of vetting and voting on important issues. Ms. Handler serves on 3 village committees. She researches issues that come before the trustees, and she offers informed perspectives. The caucus has a long history of reslating incumbents, especially first-term incumbents. The cover letter to a caucus 2018 rules change cautions that a single term is simply not enough time for a trustee to confront a challenge, develop a solution with the support of the community, and implement that solution before leaving office and losing continuity and momentum. Kim is a 30-year plus resident of Winnetka, and her experience with village government is extensive. In addition to being one of our trustees, she either was or currently is a zoning board of appeals commissioner, plan development committee member, trustee representative on the Landmark Preservation Commission, village council representative on the Northwest Municipal Conference, and caucus council chair. Kim has accomplished a lot in her first term as trustee and has earned our confidence and support to be elected to a second term. I hope you'll join me in supporting Kim tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. One note before I move on to our next speaker. Increasingly, please stay in the meeting. Having to rejoin and readmit people in the waiting room is becoming prohibitive as we get closer to voting. So I did just want to make that announcement. If you could please stay in the meeting. But thank you for that, Jim. And next, Mark Haller, if we could unmute Mark, and the floor is yours, Mark.
Great. Hi, I'm Mark Haller. I've known Kim for over 40 years on both a personal and professional level. We both worked together for several years at Price Waterhouse in a professional capacity, and I've seen how Kim's technical skills are exceptional. She's a quick thinker. She does strong analysis, and she was always recognized as a top performer. Basically, I'd trust my tax dollars with her, and she deserves the right to be reslated to continue her work as a village trustee tonight. One hallmark is that Kim is tireless. Kim does her homework so much so that she becomes a resource to others as someone who ensures that people speak factually, which promotes better decisions. And I have seen her play that role both in a professional business role and as an outstanding village trustee to date. I don't know where she gets the hours, quite frankly. Kim joined, on top of everything you've heard so far, Kim joined and volunteered at the Winnetka Music Festival as a key staff member 2 years ago, and has contributed over 1,000 hours since then in areas of finance, payment, logistics, and she's also researched and put forth a new ticketing platform for our consideration, and even contributed significantly to marketing outreach. In fact, she was complimented by our new partner, Space Presents, who felt that many of her suggestions should be adopted by them as an owner and operator of more than 5 Chicago venues and producer of 100 live events a year. Where Kim has knowledge or experience, she jumps in. The time and the effort that she put into the WMF, the Winnetka Music Festival, was a great example of how Kim is committed to supporting fresh ideas and events to Winnetka and bring them to our community. When I talk with Kim about Village Matters, I'm impressed with her knowledge and her dedication to Winnetka. Village Matters can be complex, and her history with the community in so many different roles is clearly a strength that she brings to her work as a trustee. And that's why I was shocked to learn that Kim was actually slated as an alternate this year. As a taxpayer, it's important to me that we have diversity of experience and skills on the Village Council. We have lawyers, we have development professionals. Kim is the only trustee who is a CPA and has village experience in numerous roles. As Bob Dearborn said, continuity of Village Council trustees is extremely important in this process, and the continued service barring a demonstrated lack of interest or capability seems unwise. I personally observed Kim.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. Just wanted to give you a 10-second warning.
Perfect. That'll align perfectly. I've personally observed Kim in Village Council discussion where she's been both collegial and creative and impactful and always extremely prepared. I firmly support Kim's re-election as village trustee. We need Kim's unique skills and experience and the continuity she brings to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate your time. Next up, our other candidate, Dawn Livingston. If we can unmute Dawn, and the floor is yours, Dawn.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Dawn Livingston, and I have lived in Winnetka for 21 years. I am honored to have been selected by the Winnetka Caucus Council and for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Let's start with why I submitted my name. During my time on the Caucus Council and my 8 years in the Winnetka School Board, including 2 years as vice president and 3 years as president, I gained useful experience and knowledge about our village. I have no one issue that I'm trying to further, nor do I have any complaints about our current trustees. Quite simply, I volunteered because I think I can be of value to this community in this role. So what kind of experience do I bring to the table? Well, I am a lawyer, so very comfortable understanding codes and regulations, as well as contracts and other legal documents. I have spent hours analyzing financial statements and budgets and wading through the intricacies of public school finance in an effort to be a good financial steward for this community. I have worked closely and successfully with village administrators. I met regularly with union representatives, and I have experienced collective bargaining. I have demonstrated my ability to make hard decisions and move forward during many controversial school board efforts, such as changing Winnetka's kindergarten program from half-day to extended day, redistricting Winnetka's elementary schools, and keeping our schools open and setting policy for them during COVID, despite constantly changing conditions and directives. Frankly, after being the school board president during COVID, I'm ready for anything. I have collaborated with all of the Winnetka boards on different projects, including with the Village Council and the current stormwater project. I have worked with the Winnetka Police and fire departments, with state agencies, with our state representatives, and most importantly, with many, many different groups of people in Winnetka. I know from experience that Winnetka is full of very smart people, but I also know great minds do not always think alike. So I've learned you need to seek out different constituencies and actively listen to what they have to say. So that's me. Thank you for considering me as someone to represent you on the Village Council.
Thank you, Dawn. Speaking on Don's behalf tonight is Andy Kripe. If we could unmute Andy.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay, well, not for the first time, I'm going to start by disagreeing with Bob Dearborn. I respect all of our trustees. I've worked with some phenomenal trustees, Bob and the entire current crew, but the idea that simply by virtue of being in the seat, you should stay in the seat, I think sends the wrong message. It sends the wrong message that we don't truly appreciate all of the good work that Kim has done and that our other trustees have done. I'm here to speak in favor of Dawn, and I want to tell you why. One of the key things I've learned about Dawn over the years is that she approaches the job with an incredible amount of humility. So much so that everybody has been talking tonight about the stormwater project, and I'm probably guessing that I'm one of maybe a half dozen people that understands that that project that is now on the verge of being completed without putting a polluting tube out into Lake Michigan never would have happened if it wasn't for Dawn. What you may not know is that when we came up with the Westward Project, by listening to a lot of the very smart people that are on this call right now, who I'm looking at, right? You said, why on earth would we put this tunnel in the lake? And the town was ripping itself in half. And people felt like, where's the civility? Where's the collaboration between the boards? Very much like what we're hearing right now. We came up with this plan to move the water west, but we had a huge problem. We needed water storage and detention, and the plan called for putting it in Crow Island Woods. And a bunch of people said, we don't have enough wood space. Why would you do that? It's a dumb idea. So we were stuck. We were frozen. The negotiations were completely at an impasse with the park district, with the school district. And it was then that Kim spoke, apologies, Dawn spoke up and said, I think we can figure this out. Let's look past our municipal boundaries. And she literally had us sit down and we mapped out where we could put underground storage between the school district and the park district and working with the village. And don't think that's an easy thing to do. She had a school district board that thought they were going to have a plan to expand the Crow Island building in the future. She artfully, skillfully, and with the kind of humility that you don't see very often in public service. You know, so often people in public service will say, I have the ideas, I have the expertise, I have the knowledge. She actually gently probed and said, do we need to do it this way? And she is the reason we were able to get that thing done. And so this stormwater project that I think is a great example of the kind of collaboration between governing bodies that we should
Andy, I'm sorry
replicate.
to interrupt you. Just a 10-second warning.
Thank you. I think we have Dawn to thank for that, and that's why I'm speaking up on behalf of her. It's not a criticism of the other wonderful trustees we have. I fully support the slate as recommended by the slating committee, and thank you for all your great work.
Thank you for that, Andy. Next up on Don's behalf, we have Emily Rose. If we can unmute Emily Rose, and the floor is yours. Hello, Emily.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yep.
All right. Good evening. I'm Emily Rose. I reside on Sunset Road, and I have been a resident of Winnetka since 2011. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to share my insight on Dawn Livingston as you consider her for the role of village trustee. In 2019, I had the honor of being slated by the Winnetka Caucus Council to serve our community with Dawn, Megan Pangy Wilson, and Maxie Clark for the Winnetka Public Schools Board. From that point on, I grew to deeply appreciate Dawn's thoughtful leadership of our governing board, her ability to collaborate and problem solve, and her unwavering commitment to stakeholders in her purview, even amongst the most challenging circumstances. I'd like to shine light on some key traits that Dawn possesses that I believe position her well to take on a new challenge of successfully onboarding and integrating into the village of Winnetka as a village Winnetka trustee. So first off, Dawn is fair and open-minded. I've seen this play out when she's led the collective bargaining work with the Winnetka Education Association to arrive at a new long-term contract that works to maintain all of our financial parameters that were put in place by the board. She actively seeks data to make an informed decision. This was critically important as Dawn led the board through a return to school procedures during the pandemic. Dawn approaches challenges with a thoughtful yet thorough approach, which in my experience allows her to problem solve and make decisions even when emotions are high. This played out during our process of redistricting the attendance boundaries for the 3 elementary schools in 2019. And finally, Dawn understands the role of governance. She's successfully balanced building meaningful relationships with staff while also representing the needs and desires of stakeholders, all while remaining grounded in policy not individual wants and needs. I'm confident that Dawn's experience over the last 8 years on the school board, 5 of which were in leadership roles, would serve our entire village very well as a trustee, and we would all benefit from her leadership, dedication, and decisive decision-making. So I hope you support the slate that includes Dawn Livingston. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you to all the candidates and for folks who spoke up on their behalfs. I know these meetings take time and preparation, and again, really appreciate everyone's effort. Susan, I'm going to throw it back to you.
At this time, if anyone has a question for one of the candidates or a question they'd like to propose to all of the candidates, you may do so now. Please raise your hand to speak.
Okay, I think we'll start with Philip Benquist.
And just a reminder, we have 1 minute for questions, 2 minutes for responses. So 1 minute for your question.
Thank you. Philip, I will ask you to unmute and you can go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I wanted to bring up a point that I thought at first might be a detail, but I think it's much more than a detail. My understanding is that Miss Hurley is a principal at the Lakota Group, and the Lakota Group is currently retained by the village and by the Winnetka Park District, including the planning for the Elder Centennial Beach, which is ongoing at the moment. And I think this apparent conflict of interest should have been identified, and it makes me question why Tina Dahlman would have chosen Miss Hurley to speak on her behalf with such a blatant conflict of interest. And I think it's a rather chilling message to all of us that there is something.
I'm just going to give you 10 seconds. And if you have a question, please do that, ask that.
Yes, I would like to ask Ms. Dahlman if she sees this as a conflict of interest.
If we can unmute and get Tina's response.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I appreciate the concern. I asked Becky because she's been a long-term friend, not in her capacity as a former consultant. I don't think she's actively working on that project. And Becky, you're nodding your head. It was not my understanding that she is currently engaged in any project for any Winnetka municipal entity. She's a longtime friend, somebody who I've respected for many years, who I've worked with. And she's also a Winnetka resident. So I didn't see a conflict of interest, and I don't think a conflict exists, given that I don't think she's currently engaged. And just because she has worked tirelessly on behalf of the village over the years, I don't think that creates a conflict.
And you're under 2 minutes, but because Becky's name was invoked, we're just going to ask Becky to unmute for a second to make sure we got our facts right, and if there's any corrections for the record.
Thank you so much for giving me a minute. I'm not a principal of the Lakota Group. I have done consultant work since 2018. I have not gotten a regular paycheck of any kind. So, and I've never worked on the lakefront project whatsoever. So facts are facts. As John Adams says, they're stubborn things.
Next question, we'll unmute Mary Garrison. Go ahead, Mary, you have a minute to ask your question.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
You have a bit of an echo, but let's see if we can make it work.
Okay. Oh, you know why. Okay. Good evening. Turn that off.
If you want to put your question in the chat too, I'm happy to ask it that way.
Let's go on to Eric Mogantali. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah.
how unfortunate the question, like Philip asked. This is the kind of droll that we've heard in past arguments with regard to the beach. I can't imagine if we did the research on the other people that represented those tonight, if we wouldn't hear something similar. And shame on you. That does no one any purpose. I'd like to ask each of the candidates on the amendment that was voted on tonight, how each of you voted. Thank you.
So we did intros on alphabetical order. Let's go reverse, starting with Dawn.
Am I unmuted?
Muted,
Yes.
we can hear you. Do you need
All
to?
four candidates are unmuted for this period, just so everybody knows.
Okay, I did not vote in favor of the amendment. I voted in favor of the original platform. I believe that we elect our representatives to make decisions on our behalf after gathering data, looking at all of the options, seeking out opinions from the community. The Park District, it seems to me, put a huge amount of work into this. And I don't believe that I have the judgment to override that. I trust my elected representatives generally. So I believe that the original platform was more aligned with the Park District's original proposal. And for that reason, I voted in favor of the original platform, not in favor of the amendment.
Thank you, Dawn. Kim?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that's an interesting question, because in that capacity, for the first thing, I was voting as a private resident. I was not voting as a village trustee on the Park District amendment. I'm not a Park District official. However, in the interest of just being honest, I did vote for the amendment. I do feel I had read all 1,000 comments on the survey. I think there just needs to be a little more work to be done to figure out what the solution is that will be right for all Winnetkans, and that either there's a compromise there, or what the Park District needs to do to really meet what the goals and needs are of the community.
Ina, go ahead.
Yeah.
If you need us to re-ask the question, let us know.
Thank you for the question. I voted against the amendment. I respect the work of the caucus. The significant efforts by the members who have volunteered hundreds of hours at this point, and they do it every year, to create a thoughtful platform, to create survey questions. I may not always agree with what the platform is, but I thought that work should be reflected. And so I supported it, trusting what the caucus proposed.
Thanks, Rob. Go ahead.
I also have been very involved in this as a lakefront liaison for the village. I also greatly appreciate all the work that has been done on the lakefront, and I'm a big proponent of connecting the beaches and doing some other things, but I also am a proponent of how these tax dollars are being spent. There needs to be more work done, as the village has been asking for a full comprehensive plan for that lakefront, for the Elder and Centennial beaches. We need to see a total to make a decision on this. In first blush, though, it seems that this is a lot of money for doing what needs to be done down there. So until we have a full plan, it's really kind of hard to judge at this point, but it seems like a lot of money, and I think we need more information, and that's why I voted the residents should be in control of their dollars, and that's why the amendment should have passed, in my estimation.
Thanks, Rob. I see Mary's hand up again. Mary, let's try again. I think you had to turn off your phone because we were getting an echo. Let's see if we can make this work.
Okay, there we go.
Great, thanks.
How's this? Is this better?
It is better. Great.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
All good.
The village has been discussing quite heavily and about the lakefront and the preservation of our bluffs. And I would like to ask each candidate how you stand on the village plan up to this date. I know there's a lot more to be done, but the preservation of our bluffs on our lakefront is a top priority.
I think we did speak to this in some of the amendments, but I guess we can do a quick round robin. I know it's not a quick issue, but Rob, is there anything you'd like to reiterate or anything you'd add?
Sure. This is a pretty sensitive topic. There's no question about it. The reality of this and why we felt the bluff should be preserved is, first of all, I am a property rights advocate. There's no question about it. But there's also a balance that you have to have. We're the only municipality on the all the way up north to Lake Bluff that doesn't have any type of bluff protection. Because of that, resident people are moving to Winnetka to do things that were just done, and that's unfortunate. Most every lakefront owner is a great steward of their property, and we want to give them as much leeway as we can to do what they want to do. But I was against removing the bluffs, and I think we need to be up to date with all the other municipalities up along the lake and protect our bluffs.
Tina, you'd be up next in alphabetical order here as we rotate.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and keep these pretty condensed. I think we're all very concerned what has currently happened, what is happening on the lakeshore. But I'm also mindful about overreaction. And so that's why I reached out to another trustee, and she and I have been really taking the pen and trying to draft something that we think is reasonable and narrowly tailored to address concerns. And so there's a lot of work going on with this, and she and I have been working with village staff, and I don't think we have anything ready for prime time, but I do think it's going to be on the agenda for our next village board meeting, which is a study session on November 14th. So I encourage all of you, if you're interested in the issue, please come and help us sort this out. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes and in a collaborative way.
Kim, go ahead.
Sure. To Tina's point, we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we have been. In addition to the work, am I still muted?
No, we got you. We can hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. In addition to the work we're doing as a council, again, going back to some of the comments that have been made for me, I visited several lakefront owners' properties to really get an understanding of the issues that matter to them, the kind of bluff preservation work that has been done that's very good, and it's the kind we want to encourage. We do, to Rob's point, we are the only community that doesn't have any sort of regulations, not just in Illinois, but again, I've also studied what other municipalities do up along all the Great Lakes, along in Wisconsin, Michigan, etc. So we've heard loud and clear that we need to do something. I want to do what's right for Winnetka, because our bluffs are different than Lake Forest. They're different than the very minimal bluffs in Wilmette. So to Tina's point, we're going to be looking at some regulations that really, I hope, strike the right balance and give enough flexibility to lakefront owners to do what matters to them on their property, but we're also protecting the bluffs.
Great, thank you. And Dawn, I think we have to unmute you again, but just to round us out here.
Apologies, my daughter walked in right as you were speaking, Kim. So I do not purport to have all the information that the trustees have, but I have watched all of the meetings and all of the study sessions. And I think I'm still struggling to understand exactly what the problem is they are trying to regulate. And in my world, you need to identify the problem and what you're trying to fix, then narrowly tailor your regulations to fix that problem and not do blanket regulations that may or may not fix it. I also, as a person watching this, question whether the solutions that are being proposed, I know they looked at Glencoe and they looked at Kenilworth, but my understanding is the bluff in Glencoe is sloughing and in many places and in some places failing. And that has to do in large part with, or it potentially could have to do with the incentives, the lack of incentives that the homeowners there have to preserve the bluff themselves. So I guess what I would say, without having full knowledge that the rest of the trustees would have, before you put any regulations in place, just make sure you know what it is you are trying to solve for, and that whatever you put in place really does solve that issue.
Thanks, Dawn. Okay, I do see a couple more hands here for questions. Julia, I'm actually going to call on you next. If we could ask Julia to unmute.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. My name's Julie Peterson. My husband, John, and I've lived in Winnetka for just over 11 years now. And the questions I have are for Village Trustee Rob Apatow and all concern transparency. And Rob, these are, will your wife, Vicki Apatow's work on behalf of spot checks be disclosed so that all residents are aware of the work that's led by her and formerly by Kim Handler when she helped found Spot Checks in your Winnetka? Will you and your wife, Vicki, please disclose funding for Spot Checks and any state and corporation paperwork, as well as any conflicts of interest as they might exist between your voice on the village board and your wife, Vicki's editorial voice through your Winnetka? And can you please respond? I'm almost done, I promise. Can you please respond to those people like reporter Emily Spector, who in 2016 asked whether the email address distribution list for the Winnetka Caucus emails were allegedly shared with your wife Vicki's organization for starting up and soliciting for her organization, Your Winnetka. So I guess overall, for anyone tonight who might be considering to cast a vote for you, Rob, will you pledge tonight that if you're reelected, you'll uphold transparent operations and conduct?
We're at time, Julia. Go ahead, Rob, if you want to answer.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely stunned that you asked that question. You've had 2 years, we've known each other for how long, that you come up with that and try and spring this on a caucus call, which I think is comical. And questioning my integrity, if I have independence. I've been a public CEO I have been running companies. Questioning my integrity is one thing I will absolutely go to the mat with you on. The thing that Vicki has done has been an independent service for Winnetka. It does not take positions. They send people links. It has a massive subscription rate because people appreciate the fact that it is independent and doesn't lead one way or the other. I will be happy to meet with anybody who wants to talk. There's nothing that has not been disclosed. It is on the website. But the fact that you insinuate that I'm somehow not independent is a bit of a cheap shot and pretty disturbing. So I'm sorry, I'm a little fervent about that, but when it comes to my integrity, I am straight up trying to take you to the mat on that. Sorry.
And I feel the same, so I'll give you a call to discuss. Thank you.
Great.
Whoa.
Kim, I believe your name is incited there, or was there someone else's name incited on that answer that would like to, any other candidates want to add to that?
I guess she was approaching Rob directly. I mean, you saw me laugh. I did sort of laugh about the funding for your Winnetka. The funding for your Winnetka was pulling out a credit card once a year to pay a little bit for constant contact. So there is no, this is a completely independent, nonpartisan organization that just provides a news service to those who request to receive the emails. I mean, I guess at this point, I don't know how relevant that is to what we're doing here tonight. So anybody wants to call me on that, I will be happy to talk to. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for your question. Let's get to Joanna Karatz, if I could unmute you and ask your question of a singular candidate or all four.
Yeah, my question is for Don Livingston. The way you danced around the whole thing about the bluffs, it sounds to me like you want to bulldoze the bluffs, that's just okay with you. Is that true?
Am I unmuted? Of course, that's not true. Seriously, you're asking that question?
I'm seriously asking that question, yes.
Well, I'm going to answer you. I think that question is just trying to get my goat, but here's the thing. The lakefront is important to everybody in this community. So of course, I'm not interested in bulldozing the bluffs. My only point was, in order to protect the bluffs and protect the homeowners, you need to know what problem you are trying to solve for. And I think they are still working on that. And moreover, I will fully admit, I have not seen all of the reports and other documentation that these trustees have seen. I have watched the meetings, I have listened to the experts speak, and I am only saying, please make sure you know what you are solving for so that when you make the solution, it actually works. And no, I would not suggest we bulldoze the bluffs.
Okay.
Thank you. We are coming up on 20 minutes for our Q&A. Is there any topics that have not been addressed yet, or Robert Shrisham? I saw you raise your hand there.
Hi.
We're getting a slight echo. Or we are getting an echo on your sound.
Is that better?
That is better. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for taking my question. I want to thank all the candidates for their willingness to brave all the questions that are put forth, whether they're in good spirit or not. I have a question, I think, directed to all four, but particularly I think to Tina and Dawn, both of whom have suggested that they trust the work that has been done by others, and they seem to be willing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, to defer to others and the expertise of others. And I just like your view on transparency and independence. As an example, somebody asked you about the language of the planks, and we all know from the data, and the data doesn't lie, but there wasn't 82%. There was 43.8% that supported the elder centennial, and another 38.8% that said they only wanted to explore. And those two categories were added up together, and it was stated publicly that 82% supported. So it's, a factual distortion, and several other people have raised that. But that's an example of transparency and independent mindedness. So when you make
Robert, 10-second warning, if you could get to your question, please.
Yeah, thanks. So when you make comments that you're going to defer to the expertise of others, I'm curious how you'll work transparently and how you will vet the facts. Thank you. I'll go back on mute.
Okay, I'll take that first. I voted. It was a fair question, but I voted as an individual resident of Winnetka. I didn't vote as a Park District trustee. I'm on the village board. There is, strict jurisdictional lines in my mind. I support what the Park District is doing. I don't share all the concerns that some folks share. I do trust that there has been extensive planning on the Park District, and I do know that most of the residents that I talk to are very concerned about doing something. But that's my personal opinion as a resident, not as a park board trustee. I'm seeking re-election as a village trustee. So I think the village has done a really great job in being transparent. If you have any question about any major project in the village, please go to the villageofwinnetka.org website. There's a project button there that talks about each project that we're working on or is under construction, from 1 Winnetka to 93 Green Bay Road to the post office site. So I think, transparency is really, really important. And I think at the village, we take it very serious. We make it very accessible for people to attend our meetings, to make public comment. So I think, I answered the question because I was asked, but I answered as a village resident, and we can disagree about that, but I don't think that affects my candidacy for a village board.
Well, I'm not on any board, so obviously I was answering as a resident as well. But it has been my experience, having served on a board for 8 years and watched the various boards in Winnetka operate, that everyone does their best to be transparent. I think I personally don't have huge concerns that the Park District or that the caucus council has been less than transparent in this. Like Tina said, I'm voting as a private resident, and I think where I'm coming from is I know I don't know as much about the plan as the Park District representatives do. They've been studying it for 15 months. So for me to substitute my judgment or to accuse them of not being transparent, I just don't feel that there has been any reason for me to do that. It has nothing to do with how I would think boards should operate with respect to transparency moving forward. It certainly isn't how we operated when we were on school board. We tried to be as transparent in every way as possible, and I'm sure the village does as well. So to me, the transparency piece is, I guess I don't really know how to answer that. I don't think it's relevant. I voted as a private citizen because I believe that the people that made the decisions know more about it than I do.
Thanks for those answers. Thanks for your questions. We are at 20 minutes of Q&A. Susan, I did want to throw it back to you if there's any.
Terrific. Thank you. I wanted first to take a moment to address a comment in the chat that has indicated that a member believes there is a violation of Rule 111D in terms of how this evening's meeting has been handled. I wanted to acknowledge that protest, and I have confirmed with the parliamentarian who has confirmed that the digital written ballots that we will be using during this meeting are not in violation of the rules. Having said that, I would like to take a vote to move to vote.
No, we can just go ahead.
Oh, sorry, we're going to just go ahead and move to the vote. Before doing so, Ryan, please confirm there are a handful of participants who we need to dismiss, who were eligible to vote for earlier polls, but are not eligible to vote for this poll.
That's right. We're asking the non-residents who may live within the caucus. I actually see several of you leaving now, which we appreciate. We're also double checking our lists. So if you're abruptly removed, that's why we've done that. Again, a considerable amount of work has gone into making this meeting secure, and appreciate everyone's cooperation as we move to vote.
If you'll bear with us for a moment, we'll let you know when we've confirmed that all of those who have been asked to leave the meeting are off the call.
Okay, we are good. For the record, we're at 556.
Ryan, I'm going to ask you and Peter to please put the poll up on the screen. And while we're pulling that up, I will, while we read the rules at the beginning of the meeting, I will remind everyone that anyone who casts a vote that includes listing one of the candidates more than once, that those votes will be removed from the final tally and will not be counted towards the final results.
They were at 400 votes. I am seeing some questions here. Are we required to vote for 3 people?
The answer is no, there is not a requirement to vote for 3. Is the current polling requiring completion of 3?
I am seeing some nods on that. Okay.
Okay, so we're seeing confirmation that the NA option was not visible on the polling. Nod of heads. Okay, we're going to go ahead and retake the vote. We're going to give our communication team a moment to reset the poll to allow for an NA vote so that those of you who would desire to vote for 1, 2, or 3 names have the ability to select each of those options. Bear with us for a moment, and we apologize for the need to reformat the poll. While that work is being done, I will take a moment to let you all know that because the rules point us in the direction of removing any votes where the same name is listed twice, there will need to be a manual review of the polling results prior to announcing the final results. So as you are seeing those numbers move on the screen, just a reminder that those are not the final results of this evening's poll. We will, following the conclusion of the poll, move through the data to remove any votes that are not in compliance, and then we'll publish the final results following that work. We will email those results to everyone who has registered for this evening's meeting, and we will post them also to our website. If anyone would like to stay on the call while that work is being done and wait for the results, I believe that that will likely also be an option.
Okay, we can relaunch the poll here. You should now see an option for vote 1, vote 2, vote 3 that includes a skip option. So if you do not want to vote for more than one candidate, you can use the skip option. Quicker build this time, we're over 400 votes. We're at 487. $506. $509 votes.
Looks like we're at 2 minutes for polling time. We'll give another minute just to be sure everyone has enough time. As Susan mentioned, we do have to do some work on the vote count. People are welcome to stay on, but there will be a bit of delay. Of course, we're committed to emailing out full results. But we're at about 2:30, so another 30 seconds.
I do appreciate the comment that says, "Who is this guy, Skip?" So, rest assured, if you vote Skip a couple of times, it will not be a double count.
While we wait for those last few of you to cast your votes that may not have done that yet, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of the members of this year's Winnetka Caucus Council for all of the work that they've done to prepare for this meeting and the work leading up to this meeting. And I'd really like to thank all of you for your participation and engagement this evening. You are what makes this process work.
We're at 5:17 and holding steady. See comments that a couple of final people had to rejoin, so we're getting 5:18. Great, looks like that worked for folks.
Susan, we are at 4 minutes, so I would suggest if there's no objections to closing the polling.
No objection. Yes, we can go ahead and close the poll.
Okay, and we'll end it at 5:18 votes.
We won't share the results publicly here. We're going to do some work on kind of the back end, but again, if everyone can give us some time, you're welcome to hang on, but we have recorded 518 votes, and we will report back as soon as we have our answer here. Before we lose you all and we share the result, again, just wanted to say thank you. If you do go to our website, Winnetka Caucus, you can learn more about the caucus. It's an over 100-year tradition, always looking for volunteers. You can also make donations. We're solely based on volunteer donations. So just wouldn't be doing my duty if I didn't make that plug. Sorry to make you wait a bit longer, but.
Okay, we are ready to share the results. Zoom in a little bit. So I commend everybody for following the instructions. We had only a couple of votes. Looks like actually maybe only one that had multiple candidates. So very clean data overall. And here are the outcomes. We have 373 votes for Rob, 309 for Tina, 303 for Kim, and 254 for Dawn. You can see.
I want to take a moment to thank every one of the candidates for their raising their hand to take on this challenge, and congratulate those that were passed into the slate officially this evening. I also want to just acknowledge Peter and Ryan as the MVPs of tonight and the tremendous work that they've done on the back end of the technology. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you around the village.
Ask Peter and Ryan, did they have anything else to say?
Peter and Ryan, are there any other comments that you had to make around the call, the vote count, or any of the other technical elements?
No, just to thank you to everyone.
Okay.
We'll see you around town.
That's a wrap.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Thank you all.